without a major advanced degree, and there's countless people doing it, and so it's just again, it goes back to the pledge we made. We're going to stick this out long enough to figure it out, right? So, all right, cool. So, that's pretty much it. We have the real deal call coming up here now. So I'm gonna unrecord. I'm going to, if you guys do have questions too, here's the other thing. The best thing you can do is use the managers, use the agency owners, use the uplines, them like as much as possible. Because those that use us the most, those that plug in the most, have the most massive action, constant correction, are the ones that win the most, and they win the fastest too. So I'm independent to a fault. So it was a difficult thing for me to wrap my head around, but when I did, changed my life. It's one of those things where you get around the people that are getting the results and you're like, okay, what do you do? And then you just copycat it. But if you got other questions, things like that, don't be shy. Shy salespeople get skinny kids. So, all right, y'all, let me stop recording here and then we'll tee up the real show. So I invite everybody to stick around, stay on here. It's going to be awesome. I have my esteemed best buddy here, Dave Brown, who's just going to take us away.
All righty. Well, let me see if he's on yet. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be an awesome call, so get ready. We have an amazing guest coming on. So let's see if we can pin a few other people there. Sean, are you doing it?
Sure. Who would you like me to pin?
Some of the AOs. I know Jordan mentioned he likes to speak to a few people, so we'll get a bunch of people for him. But I don't know if I see him yet. Let's see.
Oh, good. He is East Coast, yeah. There he is. I see him.
All right, good. Because I don't see anybody yet. There he is. Man, you've been on fire. We guys, some of you may have already seen him today if you were on the national call. And so we'll get started here. Look what we got here. We got the bunch of people jumping on, Jordan. So I'm looking forward to this.
I'll tell you what, man. One thing I just want to say this. Whenever Sean, he was just like, man, I want to bring up my good buddy, one of my best friends. I was like, oh man, yes. And he was like, yeah, David Brown. I was like, I thought you were talking about me. Man, kind of let me down a little bit.
He's like, bringing up my other best friend. That's you. So he was
good to see you too, man. It's good to see you too, Sean.
Always an
honor.
Always.
Yeah, so I know based on your call this morning, Jordan, I was like, you know what? We're not going to just do me and you. We're going to have some other people on here. So anybody else that wants to pin some of the AOs so you can have, I know Courtney Wallace is very upset she couldn't be on. She's kind of getting married soon, so she got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if anybody else wants to be pinned, just let Sean know. Megan, I don't know if you're around. Rich. See who else we got.
Helps, right? Have you ever been on one of those calls and it's like the national calls, like you don't see anybody out there and it's just black screens and it's just like, and then when everybody goes away, it's just you talking to you. And
no, and it distracts me. I look at myself and I get distracted. So it's like, All right, so let's get rolling. You got recording? All right, cool. Well, I'm going to introduce you properly. So you all are an amazing treat. This is one of the best speakers we have in the company, the most inspirational, heartwarming guys I've ever met. And in fashion, I didn't wear shoes for you tonight, so I'm just letting you know, since you there's an inside joke. We'll talk about that later. But managing vice president, advisory board member, started here in 2018. He was an AO in 11 months, 3 direct AOs in the second year, direct to the company in 4 years. That's pretty fast. 2-time Fired Up award-winning winner in 2019, 2021. And I think you should win it every year, but that's just the way it is. We've got to give it to other people. And if you guys got to see him today, he not only did the leaderboards on the national call, but he was on a treadmill and he almost killed himself. So welcome, Jordan. So we'll get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we talked this morning. I really want to start off with, let people know who you were before Symmetry and we'll talk about what you've become. Okay.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We'll do it. Well, David, man, thanks for having me on. Jordan Hunt, direct to the one and only Brian Delaney. And it's good to see you, Sean. Dana, it's good to see you. I know I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks at our June event. I think I saw Amber up there too. Amber, I've seen you around a lot of our stuff. Good to see you as well. Yeah, so been with Symmetry, been here since 2018, and man, how quickly did that happen. You know, and before Symmetry, I sold cars. Was anybody here? Anybody here? Any car guys or gals out there? I'm just scrolling, looking for some hands. I don't see it. You guys don't have any car guys or gals on your entire team. Well, hey, man, well, consider yourself blessed. Like half of my team, half of my leadership team, I robbed from the car lot, David. And but yeah, I was there. You know, went to college, played college ball, played some minor league baseball beyond that. You know, got out of that, fell into sales, went straight into the car business. Sold cars for a few years, and I actually enjoyed it. Oddly enough, David, man, it was fun to me because of the people that I was doing it with, and I was making good money. I was making six figures in my early 20s, into my mid 20s, and I'm like, man, this is it. This is all I'm ever going to do. And what ended up happening was I got to the point where, like, my first year in the car business, I was part time and I made 81 grand, and I was like, I'm not going to do anything else. Like, I'm going in full time. If I'm making 80 grand part time, what can you going to do full time? But what they didn't tell me, Dana, was that like full time in the car business was like 80 hours on a slow week. Okay, now I'm working every Saturday, and even on your off days, you're getting service calls, and you know, somebody's bought a 15-year-old Toyota Corolla, and they've got a dent in one of the rims, or and it's, they want to, like, man, I didn't know that this little scratch was here. It was that kind of stuff all the time. And I was like, man, like, I'm making good money, but I just have no work-life balance. I didn't have any work-life balance. And I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, I knew that I wanted to do that. So this is a piece of my story I actually don't tell all that often, but I actually started a trucking business. I went out, I bought a truck, I bought a trailer, and I had some guys that were driving my truck for me, right? So I'm just doing the logistics, and that's what I wanted to do. I was like, man, I'm going to grow this trucking fleet, and that's what I want to do. I don't know why, but that's what I wanted to do. And I got into insurance, but I was with a company before Symmetry, and it was just burial insurance. I was with a practice company, and I saw a lot of people over there making really good money. And I was like, hey, that's going to give me the freedom and the flexibility to do that part time. I'm not locked to this lot for 80 hours, right, Dana? And I was like, I'm just going to go over here and sell insurance part time, and then I'm going to do it. Well, I got over there and I just hated the products and I hated the stuff. And I was stuck it out over there for about 10 months. And then I was ready to just go full time into my trucking business. And at that time, I happened to get a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Brian Delaney. Maybe you've heard of him. Okay. Maybe you've heard of him. And he gives me a call, and he STP'd me. And if you've been here for longer than 5 years, and you know what that means, like, he interviewed me, he shared the plan with me. And he did that the beginning of 2018, 1 week before the last national conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. And that's where John Maxwell was. I see you nodding your head, Sean. Yeah, obviously you remember that. And at that conference, very first conference, very first Symmetry event ever for me, I'm sitting on the back row. And this is a plug for anybody that, if you're coming up, if Engage is going to be your first conference. Not only did I show up, I mean, he interviewed me like a week before this, guys. I showed up, but I brought two guys with me. Maybe you've heard of them, Gino Locklear and Aaron McLean. Okay. And it was just because, like, man, I was like, man, like, there's something to this, man. I just believe in Brian. I was like, man, this sounds different than what we know. Let's just go see. And I was really going to see, to poke some holes in it. And I remember going and sitting on that back row. Yeah, I don't know where some echo coming on. But anyway, I just remember going there, sitting on that back row, David, and seeing people like Tim Penso, and like seeing Brian Delaney and Edward Pritchett and just Jacob Pogue. And I'm just like, this is insane. This is incredible. And no op credentials, no nothing. Sat up there and just made a bunch of commitments, man, like that day. And 11 months from literally that day, I was an agency owner here, and we haven't looked back. And that's how I started here. And it has been an absolutely incredible ride, from the beginning to the current, and every single piece of it. And it's been very challenging, in a lot of different ways. And I tell people often that whenever you get to the top of this company, it's better than you think that it's going to be, but it's better not because it's easier. It's better because it's more difficult than you anticipate that it is going to be. But you don't need things to be easy in order for you to do them, because you can do hard things. One of the biggest mistakes that new agents make, all right, there's a couple things I'm going to probably have you write down, and this is going to be one of them. Okay, what's one of the biggest mistakes that new agents make whenever they come in and they're like excited? And if you're here and if you're inside of your first like month and you've just got a ton of excitement, like that's a really, really, really good thing. Okay. But I just want to let you know, if you haven't been let down and if you haven't thought about quitting yet, just wait, because it will come. All right. But there's this thing that's called the planning fallacy that so many new agents have, and even I had it. And this is what they, all the leaders, they're going to be like in full agreement with me on this. New agents, the biggest mistake that they make, they overestimate how good that they think they're going to be at this in the beginning, and they underestimate how long and how much work it's going to take them to develop the skills necessary to win. Okay, now that's the pitfall. How can we reverse engineer that and switch it around to just about guarantee success? Is we just want to do the exact opposite, guys. I would ask you to underestimate how good that you think you're going to be, and I want you to overestimate how much work and how much time it's going to take you to learn that skill.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. That was,
well, I want to unpack two things and then we'll let you go again. You had said something I think that everybody should hear again about conference. I mean, you were blessed and smart enough to bring people to your first conference. I mean, and you probably did it just because you wanted some friends with you. Yeah.
Or desperate enough, something.
Yeah. So smart enough, desperate enough, but you brought people with you because you wanted that friendship. You wanted somebody else to be with you, and that's so important. And then look what's happened. I mean, you got the most amazing human beings in this company by your side and following Brian Delaney, but it was all because you decided to bring some people. So, and even if it's people that may not even be interested in this business yet, So I want to ask you, before you get into some things, you said some stuff today on the call. I was writing down some nuggets today, and I want you to finish this phrase because I couldn't write. You said it so fast, and we're all in the chat trying to, what do you say? What do you say? But you said some about, and you're going to probably get into this, but you said what offends your mind reveals what? What did you say?
Heart, right? Truth does two things, okay? And the things that offend your mind always reveal your heart. So another quote that is like, that's really connected to that was one that I heard a long time ago. It's one of my favorite ones. And it says that the strength of a man's spirit is determined by the amount of truth that he can accept of himself, or to what level he must have it diluted down to. Okay, this is what highly, highly successful people have the ability to do. They have the ability to look in the mirror and see what they see, and to look at it for what it is, no matter how ugly, no matter how much that they hate what it is. Because this is what I tell people. If I say something to you and it is truth, okay? If I say something to you and it is truth and it offends you, then the only thing that you have to do is to change to make that no longer the truth about you. Right? If we don't like the truth, that's an incredible thing. Right? Like if there's a narrative about you, like, hey, like this happens, and always whenever these sorts of things happen, I behave this type of way, because I teach this, that there's stimulus and then there's response. Okay, so in our lives, in everything that we do, there's stimulus and there's response. Okay, something happens to me, and then there's this little gap, and then on the other side of that gap, that pause, that moment in life, we respond. Like, hey man, like I'd say I'm going to go to conference or whatever, and then something happens. We make a decision on the other side. I say that I'm going to show up for Dow teams, and I make a decision, and there's the other side of that. I say that I'm going to invest in those leads, and you know what? I make a decision, and then there's the other side of that. I say that I'm going to really sit down for these 3 hours and do nothing but SFG work, and then there's a stimulus, something happens, there's a gap, and then there's a response. But in between stimulus and response, in that gap, there is freedom, because in that moment, there is choice. right? And it is in that choice that we get to choose the kind of person that we want to become. Okay. And people like I know that I'm like a broken record so many times because we can overcomplicate these things a million different ways. But whenever you can gain unstoppable momentum in your life, it's going to bleed over into your business. And I promise you that selling more insurance and becoming a better agent and becoming a better recruiter and becoming a better producer and becoming a better leader and becoming a better agency owner is a secondary consequence of you becoming a better human being, man. Right? Like our goal is not to just create better insurance agents. I know that's not true for the Shannon agency, for the Brown agency, for the Elsa agency, and it damn sure isn't true for the Hunt agency, right? We're not here to create better insurance agents. We're here to create better husbands and better wives and better fathers and better mothers and better daughters and better sons, better aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, whatever it is. And in doing so, I promise you, selling insurance will come a lot more natural to you. Okay. But the thing that we can't get other people to buy into the things that we're saying because we don't buy into the things that we're saying. We don't even believe ourselves whenever we say things, because how many times are you going to say that, man, I'm really going to do it? And then what happens, man? We make promises and we make promises and we break promises to ourselves. And some of us have done it for so long and we've done it for so many years, David, that we get so accustomed to it that we become numb to it. We do it and it doesn't even hurt us anymore. We don't even grieve it. Right. Yeah. And it's these little things. It's a million different places all over the place. But if you'll become the kind of person, hey, the way that I do one thing is going to be how I do everything. And the words that come out of my mouth matter to me so much. If I say that I'm going to do something, I simply do it. Doesn't matter what it is. Because when I started, there's a really cool piece to my story. Some of you may have heard this before. About 5 months into this, I'm telling you, I wasn't this guy whenever I came to cemetery. Okay. And I'm still not that guy, but I'm telling you, I am becoming closer and more and more and more of that man every day that I desire to be. But I wasn't anything like this. Okay. I'm telling you, I'd never done speaking before. I'd never led teams before. I'd never done training before. I literally was just a car guy, right? That was good at sports. That was it. And, so imagine this, about 5 months in, like I'm on a key leader push because like I was getting results on the leaderboards, you know what I mean? But like I was getting results on the leaderboards, but I knew I wasn't like all in. And some of you guys have been there, and that's the most dangerous thing to happen, isn't it, Sean? Have you ever seen somebody that does half of the work and gets all of the result for like a couple of weeks? It's the worst thing that could ever happen because they think that that's going to be the norm and that's the standard. I'm guilty of it. And this is what happened, David. About 5 months into this business, I'm on a key leader push, and I had a brand new agent. He goes, Jordan, man, I'm gonna meet you at the gym in the morning, and I want to go work out with you. And I was like, yeah, man, sure. His name was Bracy. I was like, Bracy, meet me there. I'll meet you at the gym at 6 a.m. Right? Bracy goes, all right, cool. The next day, I did what any good, responsible key leader would do. Do you know what I did, David? I hit the snooze button whenever that alarm went off. You know what I mean? And then you know what I did? I did it again. I hit it like 3 times, Dana. Okay. When I started here, I know I'm the only one. I know nobody else. I'm the only one out of 61 people. I would set multiple alarms. Like Joel's laughing because he knows it's the truth. I would set like a 501, a 504. I would set those odd numbers, those just weird numbers. I'd put some prime numbers in there because I was like, I'm really going to catch myself off guard. And one of these times I'm going to get up. But anyway, I did that a couple times, and I'll never, ever, ever forget this moment. And has anybody ever had a day or a moment or a time in your life that something happened? There was a page in your story, in your book of your life, where you can always go back to that chapter and say, I was marked right there. And in that moment, my life is forever changed. This was my life moment right here, David. And I rolled up to that gym, and it was 6:03 a.m. It's still dark outside, and I rolled up in the parking lot, Dana. And when I looked up there, guess whose car was already parked in the parking lot? And it was Bracy's car, and his car was empty. He was already inside, and he was on the treadmill. And I will never, ever, ever forget that sickening feeling of sitting there, Sean, I'm there, and I'm in my car, and I was just like, what the heck are you doing? Who are you lying to? You're trying to get people to follow a version of you that doesn't even exist yet, Jordan. Who are you fooling? Nobody. You're a fraud. Man, I'll never forget that feeling. And you know what, man, Sean, I was like, dude, never again. Now I have a question. How many people here would say, like, hey, man, anybody that's getting to the gym at 6:03 still pretty good? Still beat a lot of people to the gym that day, didn't I? Relatively speaking, Zach, that's pretty good. It's not that bad. What I would tell you is this: if you're the type of individual that is okay, and if 6:03 is good enough showing up to the gym at that time, you will never be the kind of person that demands enough out of yourself to be disciplined enough to actually show up at 6 a.m. But that day, Sean, that day, I became something entirely new. That day. And it doesn't mean that I've been perfect ever since then, Dana, but I can remember always going back to that moment in my life that seemed like any other random freaking Tuesday. It could be a random Wednesday night on April 30th at 7:20. And what I guarantee is one person is going to have that, somebody is going to have that moment in their life. Right. And that's why we do what we do, because there's going to be times where you're going to hear the same thing over and over and over from 1,000 different people, but it's just one time where it just sticks on your heart a little bit different, and somebody's going to put their freaking foot in the ground, draw a line in the sand, and say enough is enough. And that's what happened to me, man, right there. So
That's awesome. And I think that's such a great lesson. And you've said this on the conference call today about, getting on these calls, and hearing, we need to be reminded of what we already know. Right. And I think a lot of times words, things like what you just said, hit people because every season, every time, every day is different. And I love the fact that you probably felt that way, because you said, like, when you said 6:03, my first thought was, that's bad. Right. Because it's like, but then if it wasn't for the fact that you had somebody looking up to you,
yeah,
to be there. I mean, and it's funny because this is my alarms. You can see I have a ton of them, and it's all for
yeah,
every day. And I'm like, it's crazy, and it's you hold yourself accountable, right? And it does make you feel better. But I like to a couple things you said about, and we'll get into some more of our topic here, but you said, I always say this, be activity focused before you're result driven. It's kind of what you were saying. It's like,
yeah,
and I think a lot of people come here, and we're going to get into this question. We talked about this for new agents. We get them, we share the vision and that excitement you were talking about, this dreaming, this opportunity, this financial freedom, this work-life balance, all that stuff. It gets people to make that commitment or that change. But then what happens, right? And you kind of touched on it. And I want to go into, what it is you said to me about overthinking everything and what's
yeah.
really going on. Can we get into that?
Yeah, so we were talking about that, and I did touch on that on the national call a little bit today, if you were on there. But I already know all 63 people were on the national call, right? Because that's what winners do. Winners show up to national calls, right? That's just what we do.
I was high-fiving you because I thought I had something to do with that. I was like, yeah, we talked about
yeah, you actually did. You actually did. So I mean, it's this whole idea of massive action and constant correction. And like, it's written that way for a reason. There's massive action, and then on the other side of that, there is constant correction. And what most agents want is they want the constant correction before they've done the massive action. Okay. And why are we trying to do that? Why do agents try to do that, Dana? Why do they want to do that? Why would they want all the correction in the world? It's because if you dig past that and you actually get to the root of everything, it's ego and it's pride. And I'll explain it to you why I know that to be true, Janet, is because whenever you overthink, we only overthink about negative outcomes and trying to control outcomes. Has anybody ever laid in bed at night and worried, oh my gosh, what am I going to do if my business makes me too much money? Oh my goodness. Oh, David, I'm just going to get too many agents that I could handle, and I don't know what to do with all the agents that I'm going to have on my team. Right? Or like, what happens, Zach, if I get in too good a shape, man? Oh my goodness. What happens? I'm going to get nobody. We never overthink about positive outcomes. We only overthink about negative outcomes. Okay. Now, what are we actually over and what are we pausing about? Okay. We are trying, whenever we overthink, we hesitate because we're trying to control outcomes and we're trying to avoid failure. I thought about this earlier, David. Do you like that is the key right there? Do you know why I continually ask my new people to do things that I know that they are not ready to do? Because I want to see if they're actually willing to fail at something. And most agents aren't, and that's why they don't do it. That's why they hesitate, Sean. They're unwilling to fail because you know why? Because they don't, how is this going to make me look? How is this going to make me look? I can't call somebody in my warm market Amber. I can't call my cousin and look like a certain way. At the end of all that, it's you. What if they die tomorrow without life insurance? At least you got to keep your freaking ego. Amen. The most expensive thing that we own is our ego because it costs us the most. Right? That's a real thing right there, guys. And I'm just telling you, this is something that I had to get rid of too. My name is Jordan, and I'm your friend. Okay. And I promise you, once again, if this is true, like I would rather give you a hard truth. I would just rather give you a hard truth because I'm willing to be the enemy of your current self because I want to be the ally of your future potential self. Okay. And if you'll just hang on here, I promise you, I will help get you there. Yeah. So do you want me to hit on like the maximum and the minimum and the metrics, or we were talking about?
Well, let's do that. That was about the metrics that you coach on. So we'll save that for a second. But the reason why I asked you that question about what causes people to want to overthink, and what I think what I want to put that in text and context is people that want to like know all the products. Yes. People that want to, just they have to have this comfort zone of knowing everything before they start, which is very common, and it's nice to want to do that, but it doesn't help. And I think what you just said is exactly why. And I think everybody needs to hear that because coming into something unknown, it's like, and I'm going to say this again, a lot of you hear this. I read this in a book that the Quantum Leap, and a lot of people, if you think about this, if you were, and you maybe never heard me say this, but imagine you're on a 30 floor building on the roof and you have to make a leap across you're being chased for some reason and you got to jump across a 10-foot gap. Pretty scary, right? But in the book, it says, do you focus on what you're doing in the air or where you're going to land? You focus on where you're going to land. So a lot of us need to realize we have to have a vision clear enough and a goal clear enough so that we can see that landing instead of worrying about whether we're flying on our hands or doing anything else in the air. And I think when I came here, Sean, I kind of felt like I didn't overthink anything. I don't even know why. I just did. I was in such a place of pain. I just said, what do I do? And I did it. And so sometimes you got to bring up the pain of where you are and why you're here so that you can let go. So I just want to add that. So one of the things I guess we can talk about next is, and you can take it wherever you want to go, but we talked about your current metric, your concrete metrics that you coach on, if that's what you were talking about. Let's go there.
Yeah, man. I would say that these are 3 metrics that we coach around. All right. Now if you're a new agent, this is another great opportunity to write something down, a concrete takeaway. Okay. I don't care if you're, used to 30, 60, 90 days, first 6 months. Some of you could still be in there in your first 6 months. There are 3 metrics that I coach around. Okay. And many people in Symmetry do as well. Like I think I heard this from Casey a long time ago. And it is not an exact science, but these are numbers that we use to coach around. Hey, whenever you get across this threshold or this watermark, you should be through your learning curve. Now, getting through a learning curve, does that make you an expert because you're through your learning curve? Like, no, it doesn't make you right. But I want to say this: amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Okay. If you want to get paid like a professional in this business, you can, but you have to treat your business the way that a professional would. Okay, here's the 3 metrics that we coach around. But it's like, hey, whenever I get here, then I should be efficient. I should be proficient at my job. The first one, dials. Okay, 3,000, $3,000. You got to get to $3,000. Second one, okay, second one is going to be 1,000 contacts. Okay, you got to talk to 100 people. You got to get, basically, you have to get resolved 1,000 times. All right, and then 100 sits. And this came from a discussion because I know that David said you guys talk about the 100 sits. Like, we coach around like all 3 of those things. Whenever you're through all 3 of those things, that's what it takes. Okay. Now, you don't have to say this to me. I just want you to take a look at the work that you did this week. Okay. If you're inside of your first 90 days, and I want you to measure up how long at the rate that you're going with the commitment level that you have and the hours that you put into your work or into your craft this week. How long is it going to take you to get through that curve? Okay. And I also want to let you know this is that somebody somewhere was dealt a worse hand than you've been dealt in life, and they're winning with it. Right. So what excuse are you giving yourself as to why you can't make this thing work? Okay. When we argue for our limitations, we get to keep them. Okay, I want to tell you guys that, like, we have got to get beyond this point. My name is Jordan and I'm your friend. Okay, I want to say that because, listen, we have got to get beyond this idea that the minimum threshold is 300 dials and calling it massive activity. Since when did doing the minimum requirement get labeled and get considered a massive amount of work? I also want to tell you this. April's wrapping up. And if you missed your promotion in April, you know what you actually missed? You missed the minimum. You know what Brian Delaney told me whenever I started, David? If you think I'm challenging, try working with Brian, okay? Brian, he says, Jordan, he said, here's the thing about these promotion guidelines, man. He said, you can do as much over that number right there as you want, but you can't do 1 penny beneath it. Right? So whenever we miss promotions, it's not that we missed our goal. We just missed the minimum. You can do as much above that as you want. And the point that I'm trying to make is that whenever I look back across my business, and I'm more engaged in my business right now, Dana, than I've been in 7 years. Right? Like my base shop is just blowing up right now. We've got new writers coming through. I just got a new girl. Brittany, you guys are going to be hearing about her. She just wrote 28 grand in her 2nd month here on leads. I mean, we're just crushing it right now. And every time I look back over my business in retrospect, like, hindsight always gives us a good perspective, doesn't it? Whenever we look back, do you know what's the difference? What's the difference between a planet and a pebble? Perspective. The only difference between a planet and a pebble is perspective. And there are things right now that you think are planets, that because they're so big and you don't know how you're going to carry, you know, how are you going to overcome this thing. But I want to let you know that if you endure that thing long enough, you're going to get stronger. And that same thing that feels like a planet today, one day will feel like a pebble. Because I have so many things in my life that way, Dana. You know, now I look back over my business, and there were times where I thought that I was engaged and I thought that I was really doing the thing. And I look back and it's like, man, there was so much more in the tank. There's so much more in the tank. One of my favorite quotes that I say a lot, David, is that in this day and in this moment, I'm the most capable that I've ever been. And in this same moment, I am the least capable that I will ever be. Is that true of you? Mm-hmm. It can be, if you choose it.
You know, there's something I want to ask you that I didn't even talk to you about. It's like, I'm a big believer in association. I'm a big believer in, like, that's just how I'm wired. I get a lot out of it. You know, hell, even when I watch golf on TV, I think I can play better. I don't know. It just feels that way. But when you I have this personal thing about being on the calls, and Sean knows it. A lot of people think that I just have FOMO. I fear missing calls, but it's like I have an old, let's say I have an old cell phone battery. I need to plug it in a lot. And that's how I feel about the calls. And I want new agents to understand, and maybe you can talk about your journey going through that, because there's a lot of calls, but in the beginning, I mean, I learned everything I've learned here because of the
Mhm.
calls, listening to other people. And you
Yeah.
said it on the thing, today, you said, you're going to be reminded of things you already know, but that is part of life because life is hard.
Mhm.
We get a lot of interruptions, distractions. There's a lot of things going on. And sometimes you just need to be successful. That's what I love about this company. How
Yeah.
cool is it that we get to hang around people like Brian Delaney, right?
Yep.
People like, Kate. I mean, we have millionaires in our presence that are willing to
I've been
just
eating
talk
it.
to us.
I put,
And I love that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So anyway, talk about what you feel like when you started. Did you get on the calls? Were you kind of was your ego too big, or when did Cemetery, I want to put it this way. We say a lot that Cemetary's caught, not taught.
Yeah.
When did Cemetery catch you and how?
I was involved early on. I was part-time for my first, I would say 60 days almost, and then it got to the point where I was like, yep, I'm costing myself money not being here full time. I had that first week where I put over $5,000 in my checking account. I was like, yep, this is it. This is 100% legit. All right, I'm in. Um, whenever I talk about calls, it's that I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that, man, every single call is going to be like transformative to your life. And my goal is not to get you to like calls. My goal is to like you is to get you to like winning, and hopefully that you like to win. And there are certain things that are just necessary in order to do that. Okay. And well, every call isn't going to transform your life, but what I promise is this, is that there are moments that I look back where it was just like, man, like, maybe 70% of that call didn't do it. And then like 25% of the call was like really good, but it was this 2-minute stretch where it was something that was said that just unlocked something for me. And it was just like, it just shined out and it gave me an entirely new perspective. And it helped me get myself helped me take my business to an entirely new place. And why do agents skip calls? It's the same reason, Dana, is like, why do agents, miss dial team? Same thing, Sean. It was like, hey man, like it's the same thing with why do we cheat on our diet and have a salad instead of the cheeseburger? And I say because it's all the same thing. It's all connected. What's the consequence of missing a dial team? What's the consequence of missing a conference call? Can't really see it, can you? Right? Like just because you miss a dial team or you miss a call, it doesn't put you immediately out of business, does it? See, not showing up for dial team on Friday, or showing up for the team call or showing up for dial team doesn't guarantee that you're going to write 5K the next week either. Right? What's the reward for being super, super disciplined and like working out 2 times a day and eating salads for like 2.5 weeks? You get on the scale, look in the mirror, virtually nothing. And right, and like, so it's like we have to be super, super disciplined, Sean. And it's like, man, like I'm really gonna do it this time. I'm gonna get myself together, man. I'm gonna start working out, Amber. I'm gonna start eating that salad. I'm not gonna do the cheeseburger. I'm not gonna do this. And then you know what happens, man? Like we do all that motivation, all that willpower, and then we finally do it, Dana, and we don't get a result. It looks exactly the same. And then we do it the next day, and then it doesn't look a whole lot different. And then we do it the next day, and then it doesn't look a whole lot different. And the exact same is the opposite. Because guess what? You know what happens? The next day you could go out and not show up for dial team. The next day you could skip the team call. The next day you could not go to the gym. The next day you could eat 4,000 Snickers bars, the mini ones if you wanted to, and you're going to feel like crap. But you get the point. You're not going to look any different. It's unnoticeable anywhere except for in one place. Right inside of here. You know it. And that's the only, like, whenever you have that little, it's like people like me do things like this because people like me follow through, period. Okay. This business is not easy. And that is a very good thing. It's good that this thing's hard, David. If you haven't gotten to a point, especially if you're in your first year, if you haven't gotten to a point that you thought about quitting this week, you didn't work hard enough. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you didn't get to a quitting phase this week, then you didn't work hard enough in your first week. Okay. That's an absolute fact, because it's supposed to feel that way, isn't it, Dana? It's supposed to feel that way. Okay. And so, if what we did was easy, then everybody would do it and we'd get paid $8 an hour. Okay. So this business has to be just tough enough to make quitters quit. That's a good thing, because if the day that what I do becomes easy, all right, is the day that I become replaceable and that my life isn't as good as what it is. It has to be difficult. It has to be that. So every time that you feel like, man, I'm hitting a wall, every time you feel like, man, like I'm really feeling like throwing in the towel, tell yourself good it's supposed to be, because right now is where quitters quit. Right now is where quitters quit. You should be pushing yourself and you should be challenging yourself in new ways so many times. Like, you should hit ceilings so often inside of your first 90 days. And I know you hear about that in your first 90 days. And it's because, why is that? Why is there such a high attrition rate in the insurance industry? It's not just Symmetry, by the way. It's the financial services industry, okay? Like, look that up. Why is there such a high attrition rate, turnover rate? Why does that happen? I have a theory on this, and it's because like the ceiling and what is possible is so incredibly high. And the barrier to entry is so incredibly low. It doesn't take you 4 years. You don't have to go $40,000 in debt. You know what I mean? You don't have to do any of that stuff. You don't have to take out a second mortgage. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Why do you have to do like a week, a couple $100? You can come in and you can make this kind of money. So what happens? Like, why do 90% of the people that get inside of this industry, why are they out of it inside of the first year? And I need you to know that. I talk about this on my interview with people. I let them know early on, right, that this is not for weak people. If you're always getting weak people and people are quitting your team really, really quickly, it's because you're telling them that it's easy. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I'm not just selling the dream. I will tell them that it's possible. I will tell them the life that are changed, but I will always tell them the cost and what it's going to take. And we've got to be real about that stuff. And that is not, and you know what's going to happen? Yes, you're not going to get as many people, but I promise you will start getting the right ones. And that's what I'm after.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, and I've been doing that a lot. Like, I don't sell easy, I sell worth it. And a lot of times, and I also sell, like little sacrifices, like, even just being here tonight, my daughter had a dinner at her school and my wife went and I didn't. And it's just because this is important, right? You're important. Your message is important. Everybody on my team is important, but you know what? It's not forever sacrifice, and so I want to ask you to wrap things up, because we didn't talk about this, but what is the Jordan Hunt of today able to not only do for his community, but for his family and for just what does life look like now? Can we end it with a,
oh man, you teed me up for that one, didn't you? Man, Dana knows a little bit more about like where I'm from. She knows about Robeson County, right? Her husband's from down here in Robeson County. Okay? And if you guys do not know this, I'm a member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, right? We're based down here in Robeson, North Carolina, and I love my people, man. I really do. I love my people. And the thing about my county is that we are the average dual household income in Robeson County is a little over $30,000. Okay, I want you guys to just wrap your mind around that. Okay, we live in the poorest city, in the poorest county in the state of North Carolina. Okay, that is a real thing. And the things that we're able to do in our local community are really special to me and are really special, man, to the people that I get to lock arms with each and every single day. And like I could tell you all kinds of stories, man. But one of the main things that we're able to do now is just this past year, man, we sponsored 130 families for Christmas. Those kinds of things matter to me. How long are what time's this call supposed to end, David?
we usually go till 8 is fine.
Okay.
15 more minutes.
Well, yeah. Well, let me just go ahead and back up, and I'm just going to color in some lines because I think that this right here will help some people. This will help some people. Okay. And guess what? You don't have to want the same things that I want. What I'm passionate about, you don't have to be passionate about in order to be successful here. I want to let you know that just, you know, you don't have to go out there and do those sorts of things in your local community to get to the top. I want to be honest with you, but I will tell you this, it's going to take you fighting for something bigger than just paying your light bill. It can't be just about you. I'm telling you, it can't be just about the car. It can't be just about the house. Okay. And right now, for the people that are on here that are just like you're behind on your bills and you're behind on, and you just want to get back to even. I've been there too, and that's a worthwhile cause. And I'm just telling you, you will eventually get there, and you can do everything but quit. You can struggle, you can be frustrated, you can do, but you can just do everything but quit. It's the only thing that you got to do is outlast tough times. But so anyway, very first Christmas party that we had, I do like an agency Christmas party. My wife, she passes by a gas station. There's a gas station that's right here by my office. David, you've been down here to my office, and I know that Amber and Dana, they've been down here to our office before, right? There's a gas station right down there. And down there at that gas station, David, during the Christmas season, you know what they would do, man? They would put up these little trees, man, and they were called angel trees, okay? I don't know if anybody here knows what those are, but that's where there are kids. They come in, David, and they just write down what they want Santa Claus to bring them for Christmas, okay? So I want you to think about where we're at. I want you to think about like the average income, right, and what comes along with that. Okay. And they had this tree, and my wife, she walked around that tree, David, and she calls me and she says, Jordan, I'm down here and I'm looking at this thing, babe, and I want to let you know that I'm reading every single one of these names, and I want you to know that not a single kid asked for nobody asked for a toy. There wasn't a single kid that asked for a game. There wasn't a single kid that asked for a ball. There wasn't a single kid that even asked for clothes. But I want you to know that every single kid on that tree asked for one thing, and it was some kind of food. Okay. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. I don't know about you, but I know that my kids don't ask me for food for Christmas. My kids don't ask me for that kind of stuff. And they're, yeah, I'm telling you, and you think that your life's tough because somebody hung up on you today. I'm telling you, I'm just telling you that there are people that are out there that are praying and are begging God for the opportunity that you woke up throwing away today. And that's a real thing. And David, on that tree, I told my wife that night, I said, get every single name off of that tree. And I went back to my agency Christmas party, and I said, look, I want to let everybody know that every single one of these kids, right, every single one of their needs is getting met tonight. And guys, I don't know who else is with me on this journey, but I believe that in the vehicle that we are in, that we can absolutely eradicate that in our county. And then, you know what, the next year, man, we went out and we started partnering with local schools, and we got some guidance counselors together. And I said, hey, I want you to get the neediest kids that you have. All right. And I want you to get me a list of 50 of them. The first year I wanted a goal of 50. I said, I want you to give me the 50 neediest kids. I want you to know this is the level kids that we were working with. My mom works in the school system, and she said there were two kids. There was a brother and there was a sister. One was in 4th grade and one was in 3rd grade. And what they noticed, they said, man, that they knew the kids were in a bad situation, Dana, but they said that each kid, they noticed that they were wearing the same clothes every other day. And what they thought was that each kid only had 2 sets of clothes and that they would alternate them. But later on into the semester, I want you to know that what they found out, Sean, was each kid didn't have 2 sets of clothes, that each one of them had one. And the brother and sister would switch clothes every single day. And they would go back and forth, and they would just switch clothes every single day. They didn't, do you know, like, they would go ask their friends, David, they would go and they would ask their friends, hey, are you going to eat that extra food on your plate? And they would take it and they would take it home. And that's what they would eat over the weekend before they come back. Okay. And we haven't solved all the problems for these people. But man, that first year, man, you know what we did, man? We were able, I said, I want to get these 50 kids, and I want you to go out, man. And I just want to, let's just bless each one of these families, man, for Christmas. And we sponsored a Christmas for. And the next year, man, you know what we did? We had a goal. We said we're going to go up to 75. And then the next year we did 100. And then the year after that, we did 115. And then the year after that, we did 125. This last year, we did probably right at 140 some families. And we're sending, we got 2 kids that are terminally ill kids, man, here that are local kids, and we're sending them and their families on a week-long vacation to Disney, man. Like, we do things like this. You know what?
So amazing.
And it's, I don't care if everybody knows it, man. I don't care. The only thing that that makes me do that. It's like I just want to be known as somebody that gave and somebody that let these kids and let people know, man, that you're worth it and that you are valuable no matter what you have to give. That's the greatest gift that I said we're giving these kids. Do you know it's not about the toys, man? It's not about the gift cards, and it's not about the clothes, and it's not about the jacket, Sean. Do you know what these kids know? Do you know how little self-worth that most of these kids actually have, man? And we're just building that up. And I want to tell you one more story, David. Like there was one of those kids, his name, he was on that list, and his name was Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a fifth grader. He was a fifth grader, man. And how we do this is we send out the guidance counselors, and they go and they get to talk to these kids. They'll say, "Tell me what you want for Christmas." And the kids will normally put something. And some of them put that they want radio. Some of them are going to put that they want Chick-fil-A gift cards. Some of them put that they want a new pair of shoes. Some of them put this. And man, there was one kid that went on there and he put, "I want a PlayStation 4." And what the guidance counselor asked him to do, David, was she said, "Jeremiah, you can't ask for that. That's too much." So what she did was she marked through the PS4, and then beside it, he wrote remote control car. And then when I asked my admin, I was like, "Chelsea, what happened?" And she said, "Yeah," she said that kid asked for a PS4, and she told him that was too big of a gift. You know what we were able to do that year, David? We were able to go out there and we were able to get Jeremiah this PlayStation 4. But I'm going to tell you what happened, guys. And if this was the greatest gift that this company has given me, I got to call Jeremiah's mom and I said, "Hey, I want to invite you and Jeremiah up to my office just one-on-one. I've got something that I want to give to Jeremiah." And Jeremiah comes up to my office, David, and he's a little fifth grader. He doesn't know what in the world he's done. And I said, and he got to sit in my office, and I said, "Jeremiah, man, I want to tell you something, buddy." I said, "Jeremiah," I said, "I want you to know, man, that you were selected out of all the kids in your entire school, man." I said, "I want to let you know, Jeremiah, that every single kid had the opportunity to ask for exactly what they wanted. But there was only one kid that had the courage to actually ask for what he truly wanted, and that was you, man." I said, "Jeremiah, you've been doing so good in school, man." I said, "Your mom is so proud of you, dude." I said, "Jeremiah, I want to let you know, man, that I want you to keep doing this in every area of life." I said, "Jeremiah, I want you to never," I would never want you to give up, buddy." I said, "Jeremiah, I want you to continue to demand everything out of life and ask it for everything." I said, "Buddy, because it will give you not what you want, but it will give you exactly what you demand out of it." And man, I got to go up under my desk and I handed him the PlayStation 4, David. And I watched his mom cry. And somehow I know like this is what I'm meant to be doing, man.
Yeah.
That's a worthwhile fight for me, buddy. I will keep fighting to keep letting kids know that, dude.
I
And
love that. And I love, and I appreciate you sharing. And that's something that, we hear a lot. And I say this to people Sean's asked me, "What do you want here?" And we say financial freedom. And he always says, "What do you mean by that?" And what you just talked about is what I mean by that. To be able to give back in a way that is amazing. And Jacob Pogue emphasized that when he did that, he bought all the bikes in Walmart for his kids, for kids. This is what we get to do. And to see you be able to do what, you may not even have thought of that back in the car business, but look
yeah,
who
no,
you've become.
never,
Yeah.
never. Man, I didn't have the money, man, to send my own kid to Disney.
Right.
I didn't have the opportunity to do any of that.
And
And
so what I want everybody to, I hope they all heard this. It's not about the money. It's about the joy you give and you get back from helping and serving others. That's why I love the owners of this company. That's who they are, true, all the way through. So yeah, man, that's awesome. And I know you've had a long day and I'm you've been talking a lot today. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us because I want everybody to see the big picture.
mhm.
It's not about the $100 a day. It's not about the 5 apps a week. It's so much bigger than that. So I hope everybody got, Sean, if you have any closing statements, I'd love to hear from you if you want or you're good. But thank you so much, buddy, for being
Yeah.
here and giving up your time.
Yeah, I just, no, obviously no questions, but the biggest thing, I just, a lot of, gratitude, bottom of my heart, man. It's like the impact that you've made, not only on the company, but selfishly, like on me too.
Yeah.
You're just an amazing person, man. I appreciate you, to the moon, buddy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thank you, man. I thank you, man. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the opportunity, man, just to come and to be with you. And I just wanted to tell you guys that whatever it is that you came to this opportunity believing for, that it's not put there to tease you with. Okay. And it exists, but it exists squarely on the other side of the work and the pain that you've just been unwilling to go through up to this point. And it is so worth it. It is so worth it to do the work. And I never take these opportunities for granted. David, I want to thank you, man, for thinking about me, man.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody give him some love, say thank you, and have a great night, everybody. Jordan is awesome. Can't wait to see you again.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
man.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jordan.
Jordan. Thank you.
You are a
Thank you.
blessing. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
Jordan.
Jordan.
So yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
See you,
Everybody come to our meeting in June. Everybody come in June.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm. Okay,
Have a good
thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Sean.